want to welcome you all for this session on URSA, University Research Services and Administration Resources for your research. I think I get the sense from many of the workshops that I've done that faculty don't have a lot of time to really go and peruse the resources that we have available to them on our website. And so my hope for this session really is to show you how easy it is to find them, to access them, and to utilize them for your own benefit, so that when the time comes that you are going to sit down and really in earnest try to put together a grant proposal or really do anything related to your research, you will know immediately where to go to look for or to remind yourself of the resources that we have and what might be helpful to you. So what I'm going to be doing as part of this session is I'm going to be sharing my screen because I'm going to be walking you through our website and kind of showing you where these resources are. And then what I would like to do is just ask you to, maybe just take down some notes about a few things that maybe we can circle back to during the Q&A, and I can provide some clarification about those or a little more in-depth detail. So that's sort of how I envision this. But if at any time during this there's a question that might be better asked at the time, please feel free to just pipe in. So at this point, I'm going to share my screen, and that always takes a minute. So, okay. All right. So hopefully what you guys are seeing right now is the Georgia State homepage, webpage. And if at any time that's not showing or the website is not showing as I'm going through it, please just pipe in and let me know so we can take care of that. So when you go to the Georgia State webpage, this is what you will see. And I'm going to show you really quickly a couple of ways that you can get to the University Research Services and Administration website. You can go right here to research, and there's a drop down that gives you a selection of research administration. And that is probably the quickest way to get there. So just hover your mouse on research and then go over and click research administration. Another way to get there is to go up here to faculty and staff. And in that drop-down menu over here under campus services, you'll see URSA. So that's another way to get there. So there's a couple of very quick ways to get there from the home page, or really from any page if you choose this faculty staff drop-down. And that'll take you right to the URSA homepage. And, just get kind of maybe familiar with the term URSA, URSA, because that's the shorthand that we all use. So I don't want it to throw you off when you hear URSA moving forward. And I will say that the University Research Services and Administration is the administrative arm of the Office of the Vice President for Research and Economic Development. And you will hear today about a lot of what that arm manages. So I kind of want to just start on this page to kind of give you a little bit of information about, things you can do directly from the homepage. You can search the site. So we just have a search here. If there's something specific that you're looking for, type the search term. You can go directly to our research portal, which if you have not used that yet, I'll explain a little bit more about that. If you have been active in research, you should know what the portal is at this point. We have some standard boxes here and these appear on all of our pages where you can find training, search our library, and go to systems that are relevant to research administration, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Then, of course, a little farther down, we have our training calendar, just the most the events that are coming up closest to today's date. And then you can click here to get more information. And of course, we have news, relevant news. And then finally, at the bottom is some of our primary contact information. So that's just kind of in a nutshell from the home page, how we've designed it. So you'll notice here right under our unit title, there are a number of drop-down menus. And these are kind of loosely divided into some of the primary areas of service under URSA. Our proposals and grant proposals and awards, resources and services, compliance and safety areas, research technology, resources and services, the training that we offer through our office, and tech transfer and commercialization. And then, of course, there's some other resources here that may be relevant to you that don't really fall under any of these in particular. So I'd like to start with proposals and awards, because most people who are interested in research, conducting research here, this is probably going to be their first stop when you're getting things started. And if you notice here on the drop-down menu, we have a number of things. I'm going to kind of skip over these first 6 and go down here to the bottom. We provide access, easy access to some resources for our research administrators who support all the faculty. I won't go over that for this group, but things that are, I think, of great interest to our faculty are, ways to find funding opportunities and our internal grants program. So are going to be 2 very important places that a lot of people will want to go first off. And then we have kind of organized our proposals and awards in sort of a step-by-step fashion, where you get started with a proposal, you develop a budget, you route the proposal, you accept the award and set up your accounts, you manage the award, and then ultimately close out the award. So I'm going to start here with get started with a proposal, because I want to show you some resources that we have available that a lot of people don't know about, maybe not really that easy to find here. So I want to show you where to find these. So when you go to the Get Started with a Proposal page, and most of the pages under these proposals and awards section will give you kind of a step-by-step of, walking you through getting started with a proposal. All of our pages, you'll notice over here on the left, have links to some of the primary systems that you will be using if you conduct research. So that takes you right to the login pages. And then down farther will be sort of the main information on these pages. And so I'm going to skip down here to the very last item under Getting Started with a Proposal, and click on this. It's Proposal Writing Resources and University Data, because this is something that gets missed a lot. So when you click on that particular menu item in the left navigational menu, you see this list of expandable items. And I'm going to start here at the top, Georgia State Resources. I get a lot of questions about whether or not there are boilerplates about university facilities or programs that they can access to put in their proposals. And yes, we do have that. Right here, Georgia State boiler, where you can cut, paste, and edit. And what I'm going to do is, I've got it right here. I'm going to open this document and just kind of show you currently how we have formatted this. It's in Microsoft Word. It was updated just recently. And there's a table of contents that will show you what kind of general information we have in the boilerplates and what page it's on in this document, so that you can kind of go down and look for what it is you want. And we are constantly adding stuff to this. So I have actually recently reached out to our associate deans for research to ask them if there are boilerplate information about facilities and resources within their colleges that we can add to this. So please be aware that we do have boilerplates and that they are very easy to access, copy and paste, and spread the word about those. Sometimes you need research data services, tools for analyzing data, for graphing your data, for doing all kinds of things with data, or maybe even finding particular kinds of data. The Georgia State Library offers a lot of those services. So if you click here, it'll take you right to the page where they can walk you through that and how to get that assistance. And then data management plans. A lot of federal grants now require data management plans and data sharing plans. Our university library also kind of provides the assistance for that. So, and they provide sample data management plans. So this will take you right there on how to access those things. Occasionally, when you're doing a proposal, you have to write a concept paper or maybe a white paper prior to actually submitting a proposal. So if you are applying for a grant where that's required, we have a template that walks you through writing a good concept paper. And then I would say, very importantly, interacting with program officers. A lot of faculty who are fairly new to research and grant writing don't understand the importance of being in touch with and developing a relationship with a program officer at a funding agency. Not all funding agencies have someone in this position, but most, say, federal agencies do, for example, and some non-federal agencies will. Program officers can be a wealth of information and assistance that you're not going to find on a website or even in a program funding solicitation. I have talked to faculty who have really seriously taken this seriously and contacted program officers before ever putting pen to paper to write a proposal, and have gotten some incredibly helpful guidance from those program officers that have saved them a lot of time and effort. For example, you may read a funding solicitation and think your project idea is perfectly matched to that funding solicitation. And you spend an awful lot of time putting together this proposal and submit it. And the feedback that you get is that it's not really what they're looking for. An upfront conversation with a program officer can save you a lot of pain and suffering like that. You do not want to submit proposals that are not matched to the funding opportunity or that aren't written in such a way that they appear to be a good match. And program officers can really help you with that up front. So I really suggest that if you don't know exactly how to contact a program officer or think you could use a little guidance, that you come here and just kind of look through this guide. It really does, it really walks you through that process. Another question I get a lot of times is, how can I get access to a funded proposal to look at, to get an idea of what a good fundable proposal might look like? Well, our office has developed what I call a repository of funded proposals from your Georgia peers. We are also constantly trying to add and update this, and I'm asking Associate Deans for Research to help us with that. So you can click here and log in with your campus ID and password, and you can peruse the different types of proposals, funded proposals that we have we can provide you access to. And these are in read-only format, so you have to just kind of look at them online, but you can access them for a period of 30, 60, or 90 days, and then your access will automatically disappear, but you can always go back and request access again if you need to. So just want to make sure that you know that this is there if that's something that you're interested in. And then, of course, our office provides grant writing workshop, a basic introductory grant writing workshop. We also will host workshops on occasion about applying to specific agencies. And some of the unspoken, unwritten tips and advice that would be helpful to you. And I usually pull in faculty from Georgia State who have written and sometimes have reviewed for those agencies so that they can give you some of the insider tips, and they're very helpful. So if you just keep an eye on our training calendar, and also I announce these via campus-wide emails, just keep an eye out for those. You might find one that's particularly relevant to you. And then last but not least, there are other offices at the institution that might provide you with some helpful resources. The Office of Institutional Effectiveness, if you haven't heard of them, they sort of maintain all of the data of our institution. And I know that sometimes when you're doing educational type grants, training type grants, you have to provide data on training in particular disciplines, maybe graduation rates, enrollment, who knows, there's a whole lot of things that you might be asked to provide about institutional data. And this is the place you want to go to ask for that. Sometimes that's already available in the fact book that they put together every year. But you can submit a request to them via their webpage, and someone will get back to you. And then, of course, the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, they are able to provide faculty with some guidance on educational planning that might be required in some grant proposals. So again, just, go and look through this. We have a lot of resources right here at Georgia State University that are, can be very helpful to you as you are putting your proposal together. Now, we also provide links to other types of resources that might be useful. If you are doing research collaborations, maybe you are trying to develop a team, there are a lot of very helpful resources available on other websites, and we link to some of them here. NIH and NSF grants, we have a ton of links to samples of specific aims, a research plan for an R grant, a research plan for a K grant, budget justifications, all kinds of stuff, checklists, sample data sharing plan, just a lot of different stuff for both NIH and NSF, which are, from the federal perspective, they provide the lion's share of the grant funding that we get here. So I won't spend a lot of time on that, just to show you that it's there. And also to show you if you're doing a federal grant, particularly NIH and NSF, they are moving to a standard format for biosketches. If you don't need to do a biosketch or you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But if you do have to do a biosketch and you are not yet familiar with Science CV and how to use that to create your biosketch, we have a lot of information here to walk you through it. What I would say to everyone on this call, that if you do not have an ORCID ID yet, it's very simple to sign up for an ORCID ID, but it is a great way for us as an institution to be able to keep track of your research productivity. And it's also very helpful for you to be able to link to all of your published research and research productivity in a biosketch or really in a CV, or really anything that you might need to provide that kind of information. So I just want to give a pitch there for making sure you get an ORCID ID, which is a unique identifier for you, particularly for those of us who have more common names, and there could be multiple people out there with utilizing our name. Okay, so I want to just remind you that's on Getting Started with a proposal, and you can find that down here. It's the last item on the left navigational menu, proposal writing resources and university data. So that's where you find all of that. And you can kind of walk yourself through this page, but if you don't know what administrative assistance that you need for your proposal preparation, all faculty should have access to some administrative assistance. You can click here and find your department, college, or center research administrators. It will take you to a page here. You simply click on this and it will expand it, and it will tell you, depending on the college that you're in, who your contact people are. So please make a note of where that is if you are not familiar with who the person is in your department, your college, or your center, who is supposed to be helping you. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna kind of move on from this page. You can kind of come back and take a look at some of the other more in-depth information and resources that are available for some of these other items. I want to go down here to finding funding opportunities, because that's typically going to be the first thing when you kind of want to get started on a research project. You have an idea. That's one of the first things that you're going to want to do, is to find funding. Maybe your idea is already triggered by a funding solicitation that someone sent you or that you came across, and that's great. But if you have an idea but not the funding opportunity, I just want to point you to a few resources. So if you click on finding funding opportunities here, it will take you to our general finding funding opportunities webpage. And again, you'll see on this page, there's this left navigational area that takes you through various resources. The first thing that comes up is a list of funding opportunities that my office updates on a monthly basis. At the top, it gives you a notice that we are a Title III, Title V institution, minority serving. If you are writing a grant that might, or you are doing research in an area that might have special Title II, Title V types of funding, we are one of those institutions and you are eligible for those. And you can find the letter of designation here. I also want to point out that if you are applying for a grant that specifically states that an institution can only submit a limited number of applications for a specific funding deadline, those are called limited submissions. Sometimes they are fellowships or awards, and they're called limited nominations. Anytime the number of opportunities for a specific funding or fellowship is limited from a given institution, you have to contact my office before you proceed. And the reason is we need to ensure that we don't have more people submitting applications or nominations than is allowed, because then all of them will be disqualified. So it's really just kind of a fail-safe so that, we can ensure that that doesn't happen. And I will tell you that most of the time, we don't have more people wanting to submit than there are spaces, but there are a few sort of more popular funding opportunities that sometimes we do have more people interested. And in those cases, we do sort of a quick internal competition to determine those that are perhaps best suited or more likely to succeed, and we allow those to move forward. So that's how that works. If you are looking for funding from a foundation, I want to stress how important it is that you contact our development office. So we've provided links here to 3 people in the development office. You can contact any of them, or all 3 of them at a time, so they can decide who needs to respond to you, and let them know that you're interested in a specific funding opportunity from this foundation, and it helps to provide them with the link. And the reason is these folks they are trained and often have relationships with representative foundations. And so they can get a lot of inside information for you about the best way to proceed with your foundation proposal. Sometimes they can actually help you pull those things together. So, ultimately, those grants are still routed through the Central Office for Sponsor Proposals and Awards, but contacting development office early can get you a lot of help where for submitting to foundations, which all of them are very different and all of them have very different kinds of rules and regulations. So take advantage of these people and their knowledge to help you with that. So when you scroll down past this introductory information, you'll see some expandable table of contents options. And this is to make it very easy for you to find the general area that you are most interested in looking for funding opportunities. Maybe it's funding opportunities that are internal to the university. When you click on that, this provides links to currently open funding opportunities at GSU that are for research. Now, these are typically going to be at a central level. We do not post, as a general rule, we don't post anything from colleges or departments here. Excuse me. We can do that if colleges are interested, but they would have to provide us with that information. So let's say you are in an area of the arts and humanities. If you click on this, what you will find is a list of currently active funding opportunities by most recent or most the closest deadline. By closest deadline, if you scroll down, the deadlines get farther away. And these, when you hover over the titles, you'll notice that these are hyperlinked. And these will take you directly to that agency's webpage for that specific funding opportunity, where you will find all of the information and all the details about applying for that. Some of these will have multiple deadlines in a given year. So you can see that, well, I can't make the February 15th deadline for this because it's too soon, but I can go for the September 15th deadline. And some of them, we only know about a single deadline coming up. You'll also notice that some of these are highlighted in yellow. What we do is, for people who like to come back here on a monthly basis, we highlight in yellow all the new opportunities that we've added since the previous month. So new additions are done at the very beginning of each month. And so when you come back, if you've already looked through the list before, you can just focus on those highlighted in yellow, because those will be the only new ones. So this is a good place to come and kind of get started with your search. It is not an exhaustive list. So I would say, please don't use this as your only resource for finding funding. So what are the other resources? So I don't know if many of you have heard of Faculty Insight or bothered using it. As you know, Faculty Insight is part of academic analytics. Our institution has an institutional subscription to academic analytics, which does a lot of things. The Faculty Insight piece of it is the part where you can search for funding. It also has an area where you can search for scholars at Georgia State in particular that are maybe have expertise in other areas that you want to collaborate with, for example. So I'm going to click on the Faculty Insight login here and just kind of show you the page that it takes you to. So academic analytics, it gives you an overview of, you know, what's provided through academic analytics and some FAQs. You can log into Faculty Insight using your campus ID and password. It remembers me, so I don't have to log in every time. It has a very generic kind of search line. It's sort of basic. but before you search, just make sure that you kind of click on the right tab up here. This is to search for scholars at Georgia State. This is to search for funding. Now I've gone in here and done some saved searches. So I'm going to just pick one of these. Let's do violence in family or violence in women. And I can click on that saved search and it automatically, it brings up the scholars that work in that area, but it also brings up upcoming funding that may be related to that area. So if you go in here and develop a search that looks like it's identifying funding opportunities that are relevant to search and what you want to do, you can save that search and then come back into Faculty Insight periodically to see what new funding opportunities have popped up in that particular area that you're interested in. And, you know, again, you can also find scholars at the institution that work in areas related either directly or somehow indirectly with that. So I'll just kind of, that's my sort of quick synopsis of Faculty Insight. But if you do need additional assistance with Faculty Insight, I have linked you to Erin Brown, who's in the Office of Institutional Research, who you can send an email to ask for a little more assistance, and she can point you to some training on how to do a little bit more with Faculty Insight. So what we prefer is that our faculty who want to search for funding and want to be able to look more broadly than at a particular agency, come in here and take a little time and develop some saved searches in Faculty Insight that are really targeted for you and for your research. And that will be extremely helpful to you. Okay, down here, our internal grants program. Now, this is the internal grants program for our office. It's not for the provost office or other offices that may have internal grants. When you click on internal grants, it will take you to our general page. It explains a little bit about our internal grants. You can expand here to find out about the type of grant and the deadlines. Now, we just closed our deadlines for our faculty grants last week. Those will not reopen again until this fall. That is the research initiation grant, our pre-tenured scholarly support grant, and our tenured scholarly support grant. But we have left the links to the calls for proposals so that you can just take a look at those to see what it is those grants are about, what you're required to do as part of those grant proposals. So you can look at that at any time and maybe begin making plans for applying for one of those for the upcoming deadlines. Our office also offers conference grants. These are actually matching grants, small matching grants, for you to be able to host professional conferences here on our campus. Now, obviously, in this past year, those have been virtual, but we have provided some funds for virtual conferences. So those are open, and we take those proposals on a rolling basis. So if that's of interest to you, to your colleagues, to host something in your professional field, I would suggest you take a look at that. And then finally, our office partners with the graduate school to offer annually a dissertation grant for our doctoral students who are within 2 years of completing and defending their dissertation research. Those open in August and close, the deadline's the 1st of October every year. So keep that in mind, and we do send out an email in August and then a couple of reminders to all doctoral graduate students about these grants. So hopefully your students are getting alerted that way, but we also include faculty investigators so that they can encourage their students to go after some of these. Okay, and then finally, we provide you with links to various funding agencies' funding pages. So if you know specific agencies federal or non-federal, that you'd like to sort of just look at their funding page, we have links to some of them here. Here at the top are the three that our institution submits the most proposals for, but in alphabetical order, we provide also access to those pages for a number of federal agencies and also non-federal agencies. And these, again, not exhaustive, but it's a place to go if you're not sure how to find the funding page for agencies. Okay. So those are our finding funding resources. And notice that also on this page, you can go directly to our internal grants page that I've already shown you. Since a lot of people come to our site specifically to find our internal grants program. Okay, let's see. So compliance and safety. I'm going to not spend a whole lot of time here, but just kind of really show you where to find this information on our website. For those of you who work, well, anyone really conducting research needs to review the information on responsible conduct in research, conflicts of interest, and for some of you, export controls. So when you go to our responsible conduct in research, it gives you a little more information here about the things that you need to be aware of. And more of this is available on our research training page, but everybody who conducts research is required to take basic training related to the responsible conduct in research. So if you need information about that, you can find it here under compliance and safety. And then, of course, for those who are conducting research with human subjects, animal subjects who use animals on campus and need information about the Animal Resources Program or DAR. Just if you have a laboratory or an art lab or any kind of a space where you use chemicals or have biological hazards or environmental hazards, radiations, lasers, anything related to just lab safety, environmental safety, you can get information about it here on these pages. And then, of course, we have, and you may or may not know this, we have a research technology group in the central office. They call themselves Research Solutions. And they provide access to a lot of systems, a lot of tools for capturing data, advanced research computing, secure data storage, something we all have to be aware of, analytics, and access to the cloud for storage and for conducting collaboration. I want to specifically go down here to secure storage because this probably applies perhaps to most people, as the requirement for storing your research data applies to everyone who collects data. And one of the things that we've realized lately that people were not aware of is that Georgia State has an institutional license for Dropbox Business. And they're getting ready, I think, to change the name to Dropbox Advanced because it's not just for businesses. And this storage is compliant. It's FERPA, HIPAA, IRB compliant. So when you put your data there, if it is sensitive data, you know that it is secure and compliant with these regulations, federal regulations. And it's free. It is free to all Georgia State faculty and staff and students. So all you need to do is to go put in a help ticket requesting an account with Dropbox Business through Georgia State University, and they'll get you set up. And there also are a lot of links to training that are going to be added to our website pretty soon on all the different aspects of the new Dropbox Advanced. It has a great collaboration tool, so you can collaborate in real time on documents, on data with your collaborators. who also have access to Dropbox Advanced. Again, as I said, there's unlimited storage here. So easily you can keep your data here for the length of time that you need to be compliant with federal regulations and other regulations, state regulations. So please come here and check this out. If you are currently storing your data on your own computer or on some drive somewhere that is not secured, we strongly, strongly encourage you to sign up for a Dropbox Advanced account now and move your data there and store it there. Okay. Research training. So again, I'm going to kind of go back a minute because I talked a little bit about responsible conduct of research. And we have all of the information about training that you or anyone, students that are working with you, might need to take before they actually start working with you on your research projects. At the top of this page, you'll see upcoming training classes and workshops. You can kind of look through those to see if there are things that are important or relevant to you. These include not only our safety trainings, but we also have trainings related to proposals and managing awards. There's one on March 3rd, budgeting for proposals. If you don't know how to do a proposal budget and you want to learn more about that, that's a great workshop to go to. So these are open to, they're really open to anyone who has an interest. So responsible conduct in research, this discusses with you exactly what's required for anyone who is conducting research at Georgia State. Postdocs, graduate students, and undergraduate students involved in empirical research are required to take this training. And we provide you with information about it, guidance on it, links to actually getting signed up and doing the training. And there's further instructions in an expandable menu option here. The compliance training that's required. It is your responsibility and the responsibility of staff, postdocs, and students to determine what training they need to take if they're working in an environment where they have to take safety precautions. This might be, as I said, you may be using radiation, you may be in an art lab where you have chemicals like paint. There's specific training that has to be done by people working in those environments. And then, of course, everyone has to take these 3 trainings from the University System of Georgia Board of Regents when you are conducting empirical research at the university. What training am I required to take? If you want a helpful guide here, you just say, well, I'm working with human subjects or I'm working with chemical and biohazardous materials. When you click on that, it walks you through exactly what you need to do and what training you need to take. So that's a little helpful guide. And then, of course, we have training for research administrators. And down at the bottom, we have some training on proposal development. So whatever training we have scheduled, you can click here and find out about those. So we've provided a couple of different ways that you can see what trainings we offer and to determine what training you might need that is offered through our offices. So again, if you have a student, a postdoc, even an undergraduate student that is new to working with you, please send them here and have them figure out exactly what they may need to do in terms of training in order to be able to start working with you. And this applies to people in the arts, the humanities, and the social sciences just as much as it applies to people who are working in laboratories. So please do pay attention to that. Okay, and I will finish here pretty soon. Many people don't think that tech transfer and commercialization is relevant to the work that they do, but I just want to sort of point out that anytime that you're conducting research that might result in any kind of intellectual property, new idea, new innovation, I would recommend that you come here and sort of learn a little bit more. And they have a real easy guide here that you can look to if you're a researcher to find out a little bit more about, does this really apply to me or not? So I'm going to click on this for researchers here under tech commercialization. Actually, that's not hyperlinked. It should be, I'm going to just click on protect your idea. Okay, that'll take us to that. On protect your idea, if you it gives you just basic information about intellectual property. But if you want to know more, there's a little guide here that just kind of gives you a little bit of education of what is intellectual property, who owns it, what is tech transfer and why is it important, who is an inventor, what should you do if you have developed intellectual property. So, it's not a bad idea if you're just not sure if this pertains to you to just take a minute, come here and look through this on the tech transfer webpage to just figure out if this may be something that applies to you and that you need to be aware of things that you need to do to protect that intellectual property. Whether or not it ever is something that's going to be commercialized, it's a good idea to protect intellectual property that you develop in your research. And this office within URSA handles that kind of that workload. So, you would just submit a disclosure to them that you've developed this intellectual property, and it will be, they'll file the paperwork and it'll be protected. So just keep that in mind if you just aren't sure, or maybe for a fact that you do have intellectual property that's being developed. And particularly for faculty who are developing patentable processes, patentable materials, anything like that, you need to make this office aware of the research that you're doing. They need to be aware of it for a few reasons, because they can guide you through some steps that might be important to protecting that you may not be aware of, and not just disclosing it. You may have something that is potentially commercializable, and they can help walk you through that process. And any faculty that is interested in perhaps starting a small business around something that they've developed, this office has the resources to help you do that. So again, this is a great place to go for any of the resources related to intellectual property or tech commercialization. Okay, so I think at this point, I'm just gonna stop there, and I'm going to give some time. Well, no, we don't have a ton of time, but for some Q&A, and so I'll go ahead and let you guys start asking questions while I figure out how to unshare my screen.
Thank you, Kelly. That was incredibly helpful. I've kept an eye on the chat, and we have one question, but I also want you to know who's in the room with you, just so you have some sense of your audience. Everyone here is basically coming out of natural computational sciences. So Michael might have had a chance to introduce himself coming out of computer science. Jessica Bolton is a new faculty member in Neuroscience Institute, and Kwang-Chai Chen you may also know as program director for the Imaging Core Facility. I'll kick it off with a question that Jessica put in the chat, and then I'm just going to open it up for people to ask questions. She just said she's new to the university. How can she get added to the URSA email list?
Very easy, Jessica. I will add you.
Thank you so much.
I will do that. I will do that today. And I'm glad you said that, because I do want to point out that whether or not you've been getting our emails or our newsletters that we send out roughly every 2 to 3 months, where we point you to a lot of these resources. If you're getting those, great. Please just glance through those. There's likely to be something relevant there, and we use those newsletters and emails to remind you constantly of these resources. So, in case you forget, oh yeah, they do have this available. It will eventually, you'll be reminded of it in an email or a newsletter. So if those of you who've been at the institution should be getting them. If you're not, please check your junk mail. Since these are generated from, one of those kind of list serve type functions, it will be coming from, it will be coming from research@gsu.edu. Those get routed to junk mailboxes because they're going to a lot of people. So check there first to see if in your junk mail, that's where they're landing. If they are, just manually move them to your inbox, and eventually you will see that they'll start coming to your inbox again. If you don't see them in your junk mail, email me and we'll look into that to see what might be going on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly and Catherine. I think I'm not getting that as well. Could you please add me as well?
Yes, I will add you, but and I'll get back with both of you. If for some reason, I know Jessica's not on because she's new. But if you are already on the list,
check my junk mail.
I'll let you know to check your junk mail. And then if you don't see anything there, we will follow up with you to try to fix that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Hi, this is Michael. I had a question, and I was looking at the faculty insight list and did a search, and a bunch of names popped up. But there's some people who I would have expected to find on the list that aren't on the list. And I'm wondering, how does one get added to the list?
So if you're looking for specific scholars, I think, on a list, so this is where I will say it's one of the shortcomings of faculty insight. A lot of the searches and what it comes up with is dependent upon how complete someone's profile is in academic analytics. And the university is really kind of dependent on the faculty to go in there and really fill out their own profiles in academic analytics. So if someone's profile is fairly empty, then it's not surprising that if you're looking for them under a particular research area or topic area, they may not show up. We have to the colleges need to constantly remind faculty that it's their responsibility to go in and just fill out their profile a little bit more. It may be just uploading your biosketch or linking to it. That could be a very simple thing that you could do in your academic analytics profile that could open up a lot more doors because it will mine that document for information about your research interests. So that's the first thing I would always recommend faculty do. Just your CV, your CV, or, if you have a lengthy biosketch, you could connect that there. And then just kind of, you can take a few minutes to update anything else. Catherine, you might be able to speak some more to this.
Yeah, in our college, you can either contact me or Dan Diocampo about this. We are often in contact through John Medlock with Aaron Brown. So there are lots of pieces, lots of steps and layers. So just let us know if you think something's missing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what was that resource, the analytics page you were talking about, Kelly?
Yeah, the academic analytics page. I showed you how to get to it sort of roundabout through our funding opportunities webpage.
Okay.
So if you just remember how to get there, if you click on Faculty Insight login, it will actually take you to that page.
Okay.
Yeah,
or you can just Google it on the Georgia State homepage and it should get you there.
And some data in academic analytics is available to you. Some of it is not available directly to faculty, but somebody can get you the data that you need and make sure your information gets updated.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks. If nobody else has any other questions, I have a few if we have a little time.
Sure.
One is that you mentioned the ORCID ID, and I think I have one, but I'm not sure. One of the things I'm wondering about is how public should that be, or is it something we should keep private? Like I shouldn't tell people my ORCID ID unless it's there's a good reason to, or is this something I can just put on my business cards?
Catherine, do you want to speak to that?
My gut reaction is it's not something I give out to people.
Okay.
But maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, that would be a good question for I think our university library. They actually do a lot with the ORCID ID stuff.
Okay.
So maybe so there are subject librarians for all discipline areas in the university library, and you can find those on the university library's webpage. And so I would just reach out to your subject librarian and ask them about that. And I think also that's a good question. There may actually even be some information about that on the university library's website. What I would say is if you can't find out this information, just reach out to me and I will try to find out for you. And then I can provide an answer to that on our website because it may be a question from other people as well.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to keep an eye on the time. We're closing in on the 11 o'clock hour, maybe time for one more quick question, and then I want to let Kelly go. Didn't need to shut off everybody completely.
Yeah, I'll just kind of this up by saying, I recognize over this past, during the pandemic, my office has not done any informational sessions. I've really been kind of swamped with a bunch of other things, as all of us have. But I do want to kind of, during this time, what we have done is we've really been leveraging a lot of webinars for faculty professional development and research that are being put on by other entities that we are either members of or have subscriptions to. And so again, in our newsletters, I often provide links to those, or I will send out emails saying, hey, here's a webinar that's coming up that's being put on by this agency that I think would be of interest to some of you. So, those would be great things to take advantage of. A lot of times, especially if you have certain questions about developing a proposal or applying to a particular agency or even for a particular funding opportunity, take advantage of those webinars if you're able. Some of them are recorded, so you can just go back and listen to them later at your convenience when you have maybe the kids in bed or, you actually have a minute to breathe. So, just keep an eye out for some of those because since our office has not really been able to do a whole lot during this time, those are some great resources that we will continue to share with you even after the pandemic.
That's great. And Kelly, I always appreciate your help. There's such a wealth of resources through URSA. And so thank you for taking time to do this. I know how much is on your plate right now too.
Sure,
and,
absolutely.
Just to our faculty members, just as a reminder, we did record this session and thanks, Jessica. And many thanks to Kelly. And this will be posted on our College Faculty Affairs page at some point, probably in the next coming weeks. I'll let you know when. But yeah, as Kelly says, there's always information coming out of her office. If you have any question at any time ever about research and you don't know who to contact, I recommend you start with Dan Diacampo in our college, and he'll make sure you get to the right person.
Yeah. And if Dan can't help you or you can't get a hold of him and you need, some urgent answer, or even if you don't, I'm always available too. I have faculty who contact me directly a lot, and I'm happy to point you in the right direction.
Okay. Thank you again, Kelly. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.